This country has lost its family tradition.
Yeah.
And we used to, way back in the day, gather at the churches. That's where we would center our culture. People would talk to each other and get, this is, imagine this, small village, guy's a blacksmith, another guy's a farmer, one guy's a baker, and they all mind their own business. Watch The Patriot with Mel Gibson. I love that movie. Because there's a scene where they're like, mail came, and they're all excited. And they're like, oh boy, can we go to town? Most of your life was just spent on your property, on your farm. Man, that sounds real fun, doesn't it? Waking up, just taking care of the animals, nice summer nights, little fire going, and having food with the family.
Then Gandalf rolls into town, smoking out all the hobbits.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, that's
but then
my fantasy.
What happens is you rarely would go to town. They would go to church on Sunday. They would all meet once a week, and that's where people talked and shared ideas, and that was the hub of culture. It's gone. Now it's just people in
online.
It's not.
There's so
not
much
no, it's
online
not. No, it's not.
communication. I used to think, I used to be obsessed with it. I was like, the future is online.
Right. And it's not, because there's this really funny meme where someone wrote, 1990, guy wants to bang a toaster, gets smacked upside the head and says, knock it off. 2024, guy wants to bang a toaster, goes online, finds 1,000 other people, builds a community, and now he has some weird crackpot, mental disorder.
Oh, it was sort of like your local community is like an immune system, a psychological immune system that'll stop you from
Town square.
It's not about an immune system.
veering
It's
off
about
into wild, weird ideas with other people.
Societal
No.
checks and balances.
It's about you meet with someone, and he says, "I believe there is a blight coming," and you go, "Wow, thanks for letting me know. We'll have to burn some of our fields if we spot it. Thanks for the upfront warning." The ideas, the conversations, and the things you cared about were centered around your community. They say that a human is the summation of the 5 people who surround them. Well, you are correct in that it's all online now, but it's not community building. It's people choosing to associate with their worst volitions.
Wow, that's deep, because your community isn't always people you've chosen.
Exactly. Sometimes people you don't like. And so in a community, when you're going to church, oh, there's Edna. She's always yelling at us. Nobody likes her. And that's a part of the interactions you have, learning how to deal with this. Now millennials are growing up going, someone said a mean word to me. They should go to jail.
Or they're like, I just remove myself when something doesn't go well. I think that's another way of like avoiding things. Those people are like, I'm just so removed from drama. If anything doesn't go my way, I'm going to walk away. No, conflict resolution and conflict management is an important part of being an adult in every single aspect of your life. And this just, I want to walk away. I said, stop talking to me. You have to stop talking to me because I said so. Like, people are just generation soft serve. That's what I've been calling it.
Generation soft
Like
Yeah.
conflict resolution is the center of having children. I mean, that children are a nexus of conflict.
And a partner, like a husband or a wife also.
And I hear
Marriage.
they say that 2 people will test each other and see if they can handle conflict before they have babies, to be like, are you going to be able to handle the kids? Because they're going to be a lot crazier than what I'm doing right now.
It's like Taylor Swift with Travis Kelce losing the Super Bowl. It's a real test now. Because he won the last 2 times, so everything was great.
How are they doing, by the way?
We'll find out. This is the first real test in their relationship. Everybody thought he was going to propose, and now they have to see what it's like with him walking out in his little disco suit, pouting. Like, oh, we lost, buggy uggy.
What are they, 3 years in now?
I believe so.
Yeah, the 3-year mark. That's a tough. 7 years is another big one. I always thought 2 years and 7 years were like
If you're
benchmark.
dating somebody for 7 years, you gotta.
That's called the 7-year
leave.
itch. You should be married. You should be married, definitely.
Maybe that's why there's
Or
like
leave.
big problems. I don't know if there's always big problems
after
at 7
7
years.
Well, the 7-year itch
Not-
is a thing that
I guess
happens
it
with
depends your
marriage
age,
as well.
but yeah.
Back to talking about this internet stuff. AOC as a politician shouldn't exist.
I agree.
AOC gets about, I think the stats were 98% of her donations come from outside of her own district.
Yeah, representative democracy breaks down with the internet.
It sure does. AOC's community is, I'll describe it like this. Every city has 10, we would call deviant individuals. So a small community, let's say there's 100 people, and 90 of them, they're all slightly different, but 90% of them hardworking, go to church every Sunday. I'm saying like you go back in time. 10 of them were rapscallions. They were bandits. They were ne'er-do-wells. And they had no political power. That's it. Somebody would try and run for office and say, I believe the ne'er-do-wells should have the power. And they'd twirl their mustache. And then the 90% of people would be like, get out of here.
Yep.
Along comes AOC. And she says, I want to rally all the ne'er-do-wells. And she sees 10 of them and she speaks to them in public and they cannot muster enough money to get her elected. She goes online, says, tell all of your friends, all of the nasty, deviant individuals, the people who are lazy, who are Marxist, who are naive, who are dumb, who are jealous, who are vindictive, all pool their resources from outside of her district, send her money to her, where she then uses it against her district.
Yep.
AOC uses that money to hire staff, and it is effectively, I see it no different than if every country of the world donated money to Democrats to get them elected.
So
It's a problem with the town square thing. I think it comes back to that. As a society, we keep running into this. Same with like inappropriate things being posted on X. I don't know if I could use the word on the stream, but we all know what I'm talking about. If we saw that in real life, if there was two people doing inappropriate things in public, we'd go up and be like, hey, you're going to jail. There's children around
They get arrested
here.
instantly.
Yeah, of course, public indecency, all of that stuff. But now, because it's all online, we think that it's better. We think it's replacing everything that used to exist, but we don't have those societal checks and balances. And so people like AOC, who in a real merit-based society would be a nothing sandwich. Nobody would ever talk to her, think about her. She would be absolutely nothing. She's able to escape that and feel so important and so special and become a celebrity in her own right because of the online abilities. And that's a big thing, which I would even make it I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I have said for the last 2 years, I'm really overwhelmed with the violence in this country. Every news story is about the most violent, horrific acts. Unless it's an active shooting, I don't think that specifically school shootings, unless it's honoring the victims, I don't think shootings in public should be local news stories. I think that if it's in your area, it's something that matters in that neighborhood. It should be important, but broadcasting things in Nebraska, a shooting, what am I in New York going to be able to do about that besides feel horrible, feel paranoid and scared? It's like all coming together and making us, the globalization is creating a lot more anxiety and fear.
So there's two reasons for that, right? First of all, the left wants to see laws passed against firearm ownership. So the idea that if you can convince the population that there is a massive problem with firearms, then you're more likely to get support for legislation, first of all. And second of all, anxiety is something that the left also wants people to experience, because I've said this multiple times on the show. Happy people don't engage in revolutionary activities. If you have a society that's happy, that has hope, that believes in its future, that's comfortable with itself, there's no reason for a revolution, right? But the left wants to see revolutions. The left wants to tear down the society that we live in. It thinks that capitalism is immoral. It thinks that our society is a bad society. We're based on racism. We're based on bigotry. And so because of those things, the more people that the left can convince that we live in a terrible society, in a uniquely awful society, the more people will engage in activities that will help the left get what they want, which is essentially which boils down to power for the left. But the narrative is we want to see a revolution. So it's the twofold: get gun control, and also to get people unhappy enough to engage in political activism.
They want to keep people on that line where they're just as miserable and doomsday enough to be like, the world's going to end, but where they have enough hope where it's like, but if I donate all my money to the DNC, then it won't end. I can fight climate change by donating $15 a month.
Because
it's like a perfect sweet spot of anxiety.
Exactly, because it's about attaining power. If you tell people the truth, like you mentioned climate change, if you tell people the truth about climate change, right? The United States can't fix climate change. If the narrative that the left presents were true, the United States can't do anything about climate change because China and India both together have 3 billion people. The United States has 330 million. There's 10 times the amount of people in China than there are in the United States. So the idea that the Chinese and Indians are going to do what the United States votes for, it's ridiculous. So if their premise is right, the world is going to be destroyed and the seas will boil if we don't do something about climate change. The proper course of action is invade China and invade India and prevent them from growing their economies using fossil fuels because they're destroying the earth.
Yeah.
That's the logical conclusion that you'd come to. The U.S. isn't going to pass enough laws to do anything about it, and you're not going to be able to kumbaya enough Chinese and Indians to say, okay, we're not gonna have our society develop into a modern economy and a modern society. We're gonna allow millions of people to die every year.
I just want to, that's literally the USAID strategy.
Yes.
Is like dump as much money to gender studies and we'll get the Indians start singing Kumbaya so they stop burning fuel and polluting everything.
Insane.
lot of those, when they'll donate 50 million USAID to like gender trans dance festivals or whatever, you're like, what are they trying to promote? It's because they've done research on the uninitiated voters in that country, and there's a large segment of this type of person, which in this instance would be like the trans activists. So they're like, okay, we got to get those people, we got to manipulate them with music so that they'll vote the way we want them to vote. And that's why you get these weird industries that are getting funded. It's because those are the uninitiated voters they're trying to co-opt.
Well, it's cultural poison. You can maybe call it that, or a cultural venom. You inject it into a society and watch the culture create a behavioral sink.
Oh yeah, that's
so the
two-way win for them.
So it was really funny because I asked I can't remember who had on the show, like, how come Trump didn't gut USAID the first time around? And I don't know if it was you, Phil, but someone was like, you really think Mike Pompeo wanted to stop CIA operations? It's actually really simple what they're doing. You go to the average American and say, why are we doing a gender puppet show in Peru or whatever? And they're like, that's nuts. Stop doing that. The CIA, of course, is like, you don't understand. We're poisoning the minds of other nations to suppress and damage them. It's not working. You know, it's been a tremendous failure, but that's what they're doing.
Deborah, you said something interesting I agree with, is that I don't think it's healthy to publicize local tragedies.
Yeah.
And I don't know how not to. I mean, obviously we can do our part by not reporting on it. But sometimes you want, like, if there's a flood and you want global attention.
If it's stuff that can like affect change or people can help, like natural disasters, it's a natural disaster. People all over the country want to be able to help. They want to donate. I donated to California, like the wildfires, of course. But when it's man-made tragedies, I think constantly broadcasting that, it gets them clicks. It's the negative news cycle. But it's the same way that like Ben Shapiro will never say the name of a school shooter or any kind of public mass shooter. And then these news articles, like the fact that Luigi is a more common name than the actual name of the United Healthcare CEO, is despicable and it's horrifying. And I hate that culture. I was at a comedy show in New York the other night. The guy made a joke. He's like, it's the year of Luigi. And everyone cheered. I'm like, what the hell is going? A father shot dead in the street in cold blood.
For no reason.
For no reason, by a maniac. And you're going to, we have gone so far away from normalcy, and it's crazy.
If you look at Luigi's, his manifesto and stuff, he was a miserable person. He was completely unhappy.
Horrible. And that's why he did what he did, because only evil, miserable people do such horrible, evil acts. Happy people don't kill people.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.